Hello, welcome to From Caracas. I'm Laura Prada. Today we are going to be talking about women's rights and struggles throughout the world, in Latin America and of course here in Venezuela. And for that we have a special guest. She is Isabel Gomez. With her we are going to be talking about how different social organizations as the one she belongs to, Tinta Violeta, are working to send the woman's message to the society. Welcome, Isabel.
Thanks, Laura. It's a pleasure to be here.
Isabel, tell me, what do you do in your organization, Tinta Violeta? What is it about?
Well, in principle, I'm a producer in Tinta Violeta. I produce different kind of activities such as formative events or cultural events. That's one of our principal targets, to make formative events and cultural to join all the population in Caracas and in other states of Venezuela to know a little bit more about the feminist struggles and the machist violence.
How does a group, an organization like Tinta Violeta gets to be known and heard in the Venezuelan society?
Well, I believe that it's because we're trying to solve some issues that we're watching the women has here in Venezuela. I mean, from an ages to now, we have realized that has been an increment in the cases of violence to women. So we also developed a group of volunteers to attend these cases, to join the victims to make their demands to the justice system and give some psychological attend to. So, well, we have received a lot of women, and we are trying to visibilize this process to every single woman in Caracas or in another place of Venezuela needs that services, so we can give it to them. Also because we have, in articulation with another feminist movements, we've developed some activities on the streets, the marches, and those things that gave us a lot of recognition in a national level.
Which are the main claims that women's or screams of hope that women in Venezuela have? Which are the main topics, the issues that you and your organization attend to?
Okay, well, there's a lot of issues that we're seeing the women has in this moment in our country and in the world. Like the principle, it's to visibilize the violence, because violence, it's really natural, it's naturalized in the society, in the patriarchal society. So one of the struggles of the feminist movement is to visibilize that that huge violence that us are victims, not only like physical violence or psychological violence, but also mediatic violence.
For example, do you have examples of that?
Yeah, by example, when a woman is killed, it's like a femicide. The media put that like, I don't know, she lost her life. She lost it, like she left in some place. Not that she was murdered, no. Or they say something like, yeah, a girl was in a little shorts walking by the mountains, and that's why she was raped and killed, you know? Like putting the responsibility of what happens to women in the woman and not in the man or the murderer that has killed her. So, well, that's an example of mediatic violence. But there's a lot of other things that we might doesn't note, like economic violence or institutional violence or working violence, you know? It's because it happened in the different ambits of life, you know? In the work, in the house, domestic violence. So we tried to make the people, know a little bit more about this with our formations and our cultural activities. And yeah, that's one of the principal things. I mean, the machist violence and also the the femicide that are victims now in Venezuela. Until now, in 2020 year, we got 51 cases of femicide. So it's like a lot. That's one of the principal flags of struggle. Also, the education and the rights about planified parenthood and sexual and reproductive rights.
Those are the same challenges, the same rights that women around Latin America and the world are claiming. For example, on your arm you have this green handkerchief. What is it? Why do you wear it?
Well, this is it's for the national campaign of legalization of abortion from Argentina.
Why are you wearing it?
Well, those are our sisters too, our struggle sisters. They bring to us a lot of these to wear it in every place. People always ask us like, oh, what is that? Why you wear that? And it's because we defend the right to abort. That it's not just the right to abort, it's also like the right to have appropriately sexual education and anti-conceptive. So it's like three things that we believe that it's really necessary to
birth control.
Birth control, yeah, dispositive for birth control. So, well, we think that this is really necessary, not only in Venezuela, but in the whole world, especially for the poor women. Because, well, the women that have more money, maybe they got to buy these things in any pharmacy.
Or they even go abroad.
Exactly. So, well, it's us, the poor women, that have this really deep necessity of, have this education from the first stage of education to know about where babies come from, what are the sickness that they can give, the planning parenthood, all those things, so they can start to understand, since they are really young, how the sexuality works like and how they got to act if they feel abused or they feel attacked by an adult person too. So yeah, it's a really deep struggle.
Do you have workshops for young girls?
One of the things that is really good in Tinta Violeta, is that every woman that join us in our formative process create like a vincul, a next with us. And we knew a woman, her name is Davis, and she got this whole project about talk to sexuality to young people, mostly adolescent kids, like from 9 years old to 15 years old. So we opened our place. We got a place in Altagracia, in the parroquia Altagracia. And she joined all these young people and bring them to our place and talk a little bit about those things that I told you, like the sickness, about the planning parenthood, the sexual rights, how to live sexuality in a different way, that it's not violent, because it also, we talk about, the only sexual education that our kids are receiving, it's like porn, it's in porn, They only can watch
and
it
it's
there.
Not
and it's not
sexual education.
Yeah, we call it rape pedagogy, because it's, what do you see there? Only violence. So they learn to reproduce that violence in the intimate place of sexuality. So we're trying to break up with that logic in those workshops that we made in Tinta with our friend Babies.
This past March 8th, we saw around the world multiple marches of women claiming for their rights, shouting out, also taking, appropriating of the song made in Chile during the social protest that started in October. You are the rapist is you. Singing this song. But we also saw a really massive march held here in Venezuela. How do this march in Venezuela and the rest in the world actually are the same march, the same screams to be heard to defend the women's our rights as women? How do you call for this meeting? Was this something previously organized? I mean, in a way, it was planified, or it was just simple initiative that let's just go out to the streets?
Well, the feminist movement at worldwide, it's really cool because it's really articulated with the Marcha Mundial de Mujeres, the Women's World March. Mm-hmm. We articulate there and we plan some different things. I mean, there's really a big autonomy in every country to realize these street activities. But yeah, we try to articulate and to and take to the streets the principal subjects of struggle that us feminists have, not only for feminists, for all women in the world. So yeah, it's like an articulated work, but it also responds to every single context, because particularly here in Venezuela, we got a lot of advances. We got our law, or the organic law for the rights of women to live a life free of violence life. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and it also the project of humanized birth. Mm-hmm. So we had some advances, so we don't need to claim for that. But by example, there's a lot of women in the US that doesn't have the access to a humanized birth. We have some relationships with movements in the US. That's because we have a brigade, an international brigade in solidarity with the Bolivarian Revolution. And there we be able to talk a little bit about their needs, their struggles. And they said that, by example, in the US, to have a humanized birth, you need to pay like $40,000. And here it's for free. So, well, it's different struggles. But yeah, it's like the same flags, because even when we have a really revolutionary law, mm-hmm. and revolutionary projects like humanized birth, the people, not the law, it's still, they have that culture, that violence culture, that machist and patriarchy culture. And it's really hard to take that out of our heads, you know, of our bodies. So sometimes the people that works in the police or in the justice system, they don't have an idea about gender ideology, about feminism and anything. So it's difficult that they do what the law says. So that's some of the things why women in Venezuela are struggling, you know. Maybe the education system has to change for the people that now are growing and they are going to work in these institutions, can have that perspective, that gender perspective that allow them to do what the law says. So, well, yeah, our different struggles, but we are all joined together because all over the world we recognize the needs that we have, and it's not time for stop, it's not time for talk about other things, and it's not about that it's only the feminist fight, because what we've seen is that why
mm-hmm. is not only a woman's fight to fight against violence against women and girls? Why is not only a woman's struggle to call for right for abortion and the right to decide on what happens with your body. Why are all of this not only a woman's struggle? Why it should be the society's struggle?
Well, in these activities that we made before the March 8, we were in a chat and we were talking about that, about why and how feminist struggle, it's not only a woman subject. It was like, well, every body that looks feminine, it's also violented by society, by institutions, by the statement. I mean, the people from the LGBTQI community, and also the kids, you know, the boys has a lot of violence over them. You know, they can cry, they can play with yeah. It's really difficult to get realized about it, because we only think, well, it's women's right, but what about trans rights, transgender rights? Our law doesn't have anything about that, doesn't have anything about prostitution either. So, well, there's a lot of sectors in the society that are not women that are also violented by the patriarchy. We also realize about that because in our articulations for the feminist struggle, there is not only feminist movements. There is also movements from the housing, people that moves around housing here in Venezuela, like the pobladores movement, like inquilines movement, like the people that rent a house. Well, it also the farmers. So, well, yeah, those organizations that are not necessarily feminist, they have realized that they got problems about gender violence. So they decide to join us in our articulation to defend, to visibilize all those problems that they are living in their particular context. By example, when the owner of a house tried to take off the people that it's renting, if she's a woman, he's a man, and he commits gender violence with her in that moment, when you go to the justice system, they told you, no, that's a problem of property. So the right to property states a level upon the right of to live a life with no violence for the woman, and that it's not fair, because, well, he's violented her directly for her condition of woman. So, well, that's an example, and that also happens with the farmers. It also happens in different aspects of life. So yeah, we realize about it, and I think that now we are bigger and we are joining their struggles too. So yeah, it's a really integrative perspective that's burning now.
Are these struggles also contemplated and are rightfully included in UN's 2023 agenda from United Nations and 2030 agenda from the African Union for women's empowerment? Are all those struggles in them specifically written down?
Well, that depends of, you know, the ideology of each movement, if they recognize that. But I actually believe that it's really related, because all this process, it's also to create conscience. So the conscience and the emancipation, it's something that empowers women and child. So, I mean, we need them to know what is violence. We need them to know that they don't deserve to be victims of violence, that they are not guilty for the violence that it's committed against them, because that is something that makes the patriarchy system, makes us believe that we are guilty for the violence that we are victims. that it's because the way we were dressed, or because it was too late for us to be in the street alone, no? So, well, we're trying to make childs and women to know that it's not their responsibility, and they can, you know, take all these knowledges that we got, that they got, that we can all share to make them be more empowerment by their acts.
Thank you, Isabel, for sharing these thoughts with us here from Caracas, and the importance of keep raising our voices so society can understand better what women are asking for. Just respect, and that society understands that feminism is not only a woman thing. Thank you very much. Like this, we come to the end of this From Caracas. We were speaking today with Isabel Gomez, and she is a social activist from Tinta Violeta here in Venezuela. With her, we were talking about feminist movements in Venezuela and throughout the world. Thank you for being with us today. Until next time.